Okay, so here's an update. I got two panels up. So what I ended up having to do with the first one, um, where I had the bracing ended up being slightly too high. So this side was up probably about 1.5 inches. That side was up just slightly. So uh, I ended up having to kind of put some 2x4s under it to prop it up until I could get this out. I'm gonna say there's no set way to do to get this thing out from under this first one. This first panel is the hardest because there's nothing for it to lean against. So um, if you got some people to help you, that probably make it a lot easier. What I ended up having to do was take some boards and lean them up against the lower part of the angle there, and then kind of tap the winch and bring it up slightly, slightly until it would catch the lip, and then once I finally got it in place, I had to build a brace for the backside that I used to kind of push up against it to allow this thing to get out from under it. And but then the brace itself was in the way of this coming down because of the boards going to the side, which I could have took one of the boards off and it would have let it down, but I didn't feel like doing that. So I went ahead and tied this. I put a hook up there in one of the holes with the ratchet strap with a rope that goes over there to just kind of hold it, to keep it from falling that way. Because, I mean, once I got the brace out from under it, I could let it down slowly, and if it had fallen over, the brace would kind of still been there to catch it. So once it was down all the way, I went ahead and slid it over. Um, I took the two braces on the end, dropped them down 1.5 inches. I left the middle one where it is, and then when I raised this one, the second one, it went a lot better. So basically, this is where I'm at now. Not going to really be able to do anything else today. I got to work all week, so I don't know how much I'm going to get done each evening. But I'm really just going to leave all this. I'm even going to leave that up because it's not even really pulling on the winch right now. I did manage to get some of the bolts. They say put the bolts on these rows here every third bolt. So I did manage to do that up to about here on both sides. So they are kind of buttoned together at the bottom. It gives it a larger footprint. I'm not real sure. I think you're supposed to just kind of climb up on this thing. That's why they kind of recommend that you put some bracing underneath it and that kind of stuff, because you sort of have to, it looks like you have to get up there. My ladder is 11 feet and this arch is 11 feet. So, I mean, actually my ladder is a little, I thought that ladder went to 11 feet. I guess it doesn't. So I still can't reach over to the middle. I mean, I can reach over and put a bolt in, but I'm still trying to figure out. There may be no way around it. I may need somebody to help, hold the nut on the bottom or something while we put them in. But it's really looking like I'm gonna have to climb on this thing, and I weigh 275, so I think when it's fully assembled, it's supposed to be able to support that kind of weight, but not in this condition. So I have a lot of lumber over here from the form boards and stuff like that I can make bracing out of. So I think that's what I'll actually work on tomorrow before I go any further, because I'd like to get that every third bolt on that row all the way across before I go putting more panels together. And they have a bunch of other stuff. They give you these braces and stuff to put on the sides here to make sure that your panels, because this is probably, I mean, just looking at it, this is probably over 2 foot. It's supposed to be 2 foot on center. Let me grab a tape measure and take a look. Yeah, I mean, we're about 24 and a half on that one. That's about 20, that's actually about 23 and 7/8. But you know, once that one's compressed, it may pull this one out. So they give you these pieces of angle. They got holes in them every 2 foot. Well, they got all different variety of holes for the different varieties of. But they do have a set on there that are 2 foot on center. So you basically kind of get them into position, put those angles on them to hold them, because these really need to be compressed to the 2 foot, uh, the 2 foot width on center before you put your concrete anchors in. And they say to put those L brackets on the beginning, like, which to me makes absolutely no sense. I mean, don't get me wrong, it would be easier, but like, there's one of those concrete brackets has to go on every one of these at the bottom, on the bottom hole. Well, how are you going to put that on before you make these two together? I mean, I could understand you can do those, the middle ones, before you put them up, and you only just do one of those holes in the middle. But these right here, you can't do these before you put it up. So I actually made this trough a little bit wider. It's probably maybe an inch wider or whatever than what they called for. So I have a little bit more room in there to play with. I just got to really make sure though that I keep the distance apart the way it's supposed to be, and that the building goes up square. Anyways, I'm gonna drive these stakes in here, get this thing hopefully secured, put the tools up, and make some dinner. I'm hungry. I'll give you another update once I get further. Okay, so here's a little update. It's actually been a couple days because I have to work during the week, so really didn't get a whole lot done. This third panel I actually just put up this morning, but a couple things that I want to talk about real quick that I've noticed. First of all, the way kind of touched, I actually never did build the bracing for the middle there yet. I just cut this piece of wood to be long enough to where I could kind of pry it up in there if I need to. I will probably, once this thing is not coming up to where it's falling in the way here, I'll probably go ahead and begin to brace this. So basically what I have right now is the panels are put together. On the seams here, the instructions tell you to go ahead and put in every third bolt. So basically I have every third bolt in on the seams on all these panels so far, and basically ready to raise the fourth panel. What I've been using is these right here. You could probably use a Phillips, like a big Phillips screwdriver to kind of line the holes up, or like a tapered pry bar. But what I found is this particular set of Milwaukee channel walks, which has these little pry bars kind of on the end, and the way that they're bent really does a real good job for this, because basically so I've done all this myself so far. So what it's consisted of is basically I've had to, as I raise a panel like this one for instance, I'll put in whatever bolts here I can reach by hand. That one right there, I have a stool that I put right here that I can reach that one, but then pretty much all the rest across the sides, it's the same for the other side obviously, but all the ones that are up there or higher on both sides and in the middle and everything, I basically have to I have to pretty much, I've got a ladder over here, I have to go up on the ladder, put the bolt down in, come back down the ladder, move the ladder over, then go up and put the nut on the underside. What I found is that like I said, these pliers work pretty good. A lot of these holes I can actually go from the underside and and get to the hole next to where I want to put the bolt in, kind of jam these up in there and pry them around. And because it has this other arm on it, sometimes it may want to pull back from where I need it to be pried, but I could actually use this arm to kind of push it up against the wall or whatever, and cause it to stay so that I can go around on the other side and put the bolt in. I've really haven't had to pry any from like the top side. So some of the seams where you have like 3 or 4 pieces on top of each other can be a little more difficult, but again, that's why this particular, I've just found that this has worked really good. So, and what I've also done is on these first 2 panels, when I put them together, you know, it says put them finger tight. So I put them finger tight, but I tighten them all the way down with my fingers, not like super tight, but just to where the nuts are touching the metal. That 3rd panel, I just tightened them to basically where the edge of the nut came to the end of the bolt. And that seemed to work a little better. It gave me a little bit more play in it. And I've done that 4th panel the same way. So when I actually put that one up, I'll get to see what it's like to actually have both of those panels pretty loose, and I think they'll go together a little easier. I have installed, these are the pieces of angle that that Steelmaster gives you, and it's just for the purpose of making sure that you're 24 inches on center. So basically what my plan is this, and this will be the conclusion of this update. My plan is that I don't actually have anything holding it to the concrete right now. So I've had this bracing up for the few days, which has kept it from coming this way. I have another this right here that I stick on the other side that leans up against it, and it's kind of you know, if the thing were to fall here, it's, you know, it sort of makes it push against itself. So and then I have this board that's been in the middle, and I've only had these 2 panels standing for the last few days anyways, and I haven't really had any problems as far as I know. When the wind blows, I can definitely hear this strap right here, which this strap has also been kind of holding it to keep it from going that way. So basically I had that on the other side and this strap, and then these 2 braces holding it from coming this way. So I don't actually have anything holding it to the concrete though. So I'd like to get to that point where I at least have some anchors in. I'm not going to put them all in right away, but I do want to start positioning this where it's going to finally go. And so what I'm going to do is, well, that's kind of why I put these angles on. I see these angles are good for 4 panels. So I'm going to go ahead and raise the 4th panel, get this one all set up. These are all 24 on center now because of the angles that are holding them. And so once I get that 4th one up, get all the screws on the seams and everything, get these angles into the right position, get it 24 inches on center, and then put 2 more on the other side in these same positions, then I'm going to go ahead and get ready to put my first couple anchors into concrete. I pulled my measurements to make sure we were basically parallel all the way across, and everything's good. Unfortunately though, like I can see, if I look at this trough over here, my board itself, which I was aware of this actually before we poured, but there was really nothing I could do about it. I mean, you try to pick the straightest lumber you can, but you know, the boards aren't straight. So this one here on the inside part of the trough, it kind of breaks away a little bit. And so I don't want to measure my my measurements of where I want this wall to fall off of the trough, even though the trough was is pretty much as square as I could make it. So what I'm going to do is probably draw a 3, 4, 5 90-degree, you know, triangle here, and then run a chalk line going that way and a chalk line going this way. Actually, I'm going to start it from over here though, because I know this outside board for this trough over here was pretty straight, and it's pretty straight with the actual board, the outside of the form. So I'll start with this, measure over, and then do a 3, 4, 5 triangle here, and then chalk lines going straight that way and straight this way. And ultimately, I'm basically just going to make a chalk line square on here with some red chalk that won't come off easily. And, you know, pull my diagonals, make sure everything is square and all that stuff. And then once I know it is, then I'll pull my measurements off of that chalk line to position this how far in or out I want it, so that I know they're all straight down. I'll probably go ahead and record that when I do that, but that's still going to be a little while away. I got to get that other panel up. So if you want to see, I'll go ahead and raise the panel now. And it's actually a little easier. I don't have to be quite as cautious because I'm not so worried about it flying this way, because it's got all that in front of it now. So I mean, I pretty much just stand it up, and then I'll let you see how it's not quite as difficult now as that first one was. I did end up lowering that. Middle brace the same, about 1.5 inches, like I did the 2 outside ones. So they're all about the same level now, and that seems to work pretty well. I may have to loosen these bolts here because I don't really want to bend these angles. Yeah. Go put the other one on the outside too. Obviously, every panel you put up needs to line up on the outside or the one before it. about it. It had got hung on that piece of angle, but I mean, it's pretty much now, because there's so much weight with my chain and everything over there, that's actually exerting quite a bit of downward force on this. So once it hits a certain point, this just begins to want to fall forward. So I mean, it goes on there pretty effortlessly, and then you just kind of position it. And then you do the same with the other side and the top. And the top, you know, if you're trying to get it over or whatever, you just grab a 2x4 or something and push up on it as you wheel it in a little bit more. Really, at this point, though, I don't think I really need to wheel it in anymore. I just got to get it off of this. It's up on the concrete over here. It's really starting to look like a workshop now. Also, what I found is if when you're putting in the bolts, if one piece is a little bit lower than the other or whatever, you need to raise it up a little, you know, floor jack with a board. Can use cinder blocks if it's not high enough or whatever. That's what I did. Works real well. Just jack it up. It'll sit there until you're ready. Do what you need to do and then let it down. See, that's over now. Now what I'll do is, now that it's pretty much in place, I'll go ahead and line up the seams and do all the bolts here at the beginning that I can reach up to with either with my hands or with my stool in there, which, like I said, if I recall, I believe I can get to that one right there. I'll do it on both sides, and then once those are in, that's got it pretty secure from falling that way, and I can actually go ahead and let this this whole I don't know what to call the thing, but I can let it down. When you go to let it down, you may have to kind of push it. Even though I dropped those supports, I still have to kind of nudge it out of there because it's snug, but it does come out. So yeah, that's it. So I mean, it's working real good. So that's the update for right now.
Okay, so real quick, I just wanted to point out and show you this picture. I ultimately ended up having to build this contraption to be able to get on top of the building when you decide that you want to go back in and put all the bolts in. Obviously, you won't be able to stick your ladder next to the panel and reach over anymore because you have the other panels in the way. So this is just kind of what I did, and it gave me access to the top of the whole building. Just make sure you have bracing under the building in the places where you want to walk on. So that's kind of what I did. That's how I addressed it. There's probably other ways as well, but that's what I did. So just wanted to show that.